everybody. Welcome to this month's edition of the Ubuntu desktop team Indaba. I'm very excited for this one. Today, it's all about Thunderbird. So I'd like to welcome, we've got Monica. She'll be my lovely co-host. And representing Thunderbird, we have Ryan and Berna. I would like to kind of pass it off to, everybody knows me and Monica are just kind of around the desktop team, but maybe Ryan and then Berna, if you can introduce yourselves.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Ryan Sykes. I'm the Thunderbird product manager. Before that, I was the community manager, and I've been with Thunderbird for 5 years. I think I track the most to Thunderbird's. Like, I was here at the beginning when the future of Thunderbird was kind of hazy. I think I was the second person paid to work on it. And now we're all the way at the other side where we're a team of 23, I think, right now. And that'll grow a little bit more this year. And we're doing amazing work. We've come a long way from a time when Thunderbird was we were barely able to build it consistently to now we've paid down a lot of technical debt, and we're doing all sorts of interesting new features and things like that. Other than that, about me personally, I live in beautiful Colorado, and I drink a lot of craft beer and occasionally climb a mountain.
Nice. Berna, what is your role within the Thunderbird project?
Hi, everyone. I'm Berna, and thanks a lot for having us. I am the Thunderbird Council Chair, and I've been involved in Thunderbird since 2015. As Ryan said, when things were not looking up or were slightly in a different state back then. And I've been serving on the council since 2019, and now things are looking very good. They are growing in donations, staff, and ambition, I think, as again Ryan pointed to. I also serve on the board of the PEP Foundation, which is an open source project focused on privacy. I serve on the Swiss chapter of ISOC. I am the managing partner in yet another open source project called Anastasis that offers crypto custody and multi-factor, multi-state key backup. And I'm happy to be here. Thanks a lot for having us once more.
So out of curiosity, Berna, does your PEP work overlap with Thunderbird a little bit with some of the...
A little bit, but I try to keep them separate because, because of slight conflict of interest, because we are also going after end-to-end encryption, and we have a plugin for Thunderbird actually, but it's all for users. A healthy competition benefits the users at the end. And my goal is, if we make encryption, end-to-end encryption, peer-to-peer encryption easy and adoptable by masses, I think we have won. It doesn't matter if it's Thunderbird, OpenPGP implementation, or PEP, or another implementation. I think that's the goal, ultimate goal for me, especially when encryption is under attack by governments today. So yeah, it would be a step in the right direction for everyone.
Absolutely. I definitely remember when I first set up my OpenPGP key, and it was a nightmare. And I was like, how is everybody supposed to do this? So
yeah,
I really appreciate the effort.
Yeah, I'm the same. As normal users, we don't want to say anything about keys.
Exactly. But yet we still want to use the secure features. Like, I dream of a day where my mom and dad can use a PGP key and not really need to know the under the hood internals there.
Yeah.
Also, I've been using Thunderbird since 2011, and I had no idea that it was a relatively unpaid project and you had difficult building. I had no idea. That's so lovely. I mean, well, it's lovely that you kind of gotten past those things now.
Yeah. We have a weird history in that. I don't remember the exact year. I think it was 2013 or 2014. The Mozilla didn't know what the future looked like for Thunderbird. It was unclear, and email clients, desktop email clients, were definitely out of fashion. Gmail was finally becoming, kind of the email hegemon it is today. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, Thunderbird had no revenue stream or anything like that. So it was just there was a team paid to work on it about the size we probably are now, but there was no clear business model or business plan to make the project sustainable. So this is my chance to tell the folks a little bit about Thunderbird history. So it was given over to the community to maintain because lots of community members still wanted to keep it going. But just over the next few years, it's a big project. It's an enormous project. Millions of lines of code, very complex, supports many different communication standards. And so it's not an easy project for volunteers to maintain. And so kind of over time, all of the bit rot you might expect set in. Things were kind of it was hard to put together like a coalition to like update certain things that needed to be updated. And when I came on, one thing we realized is we had a somewhat healthy donation base from virtually no outreach, which had allowed me to come on and a couple of others. And so, we really started putting time into what happens if we ask users to support this project with a little bit of their money. And we have 20 million users. We had 20 million users then, monthly active users. So it's, even if you can convince, a fraction of a percent each year to give $5 or $10, that's still a somewhat substantial amount. And so so we managed to do that, and we've continued to be very good at doing that, and telling users what the deal is. Like, you help us financially, we put more people on the project, and surprisingly it works. And so we've grown from, when I came on, revenue was about 600 and some thousand that year, to this last year we closed with 2.7 million, and we expect that to be up this year. So yeah, that really makes the project sustainable and really allows us not just to, pay down technical debt, but it also allows us, now we're kind of beyond that, to where we're actually able to do new cool things for users. And so, but we rely very much on our users to support us.
So, and I think especially, and also I know, Jason, you heard the music. I am in the hotel lobby because I'm at scale this weekend. So sorry for the distracting sounds. But I think if you go and see just all the comments, like, I do definitely want to share them. Like, we've got this one from Alexi. Yeah. And it's, that this is just great. Also, this one is fantastic. 15 plus years of emails backed up. And so I think it's easy to see kind of why people will support, projects that they love and make their lives better, and let them have email with that respects their privacy too. So So I have a question from, it's pretty amazing audio for a hotel lobby. LAX Hilton, just saying. So kind of starting with our questions. That the email client has had a lot of changes since it became Mozilla Technologies in 2020. Which update, and this is a question for our Thunderbird people, of course, do you say has been your personal favorite? And you can't say all of them.
Vernon, do you want to go first, and then I can hop in?
Sure. I think on the email client side, more is coming, and I don't want to spoil it, but I am most excited about the UI UX changes that will happen, that is coming, and that will change the feel and look of the product of Thunderbird. I know everybody likes a certain way of working, but I think it's also exciting to maybe incorporate something new, maybe to get a different feel, look at, change the feel of it to attract more users too, because at the end of the day, we want to be sustainable and reach a bigger crowd, bring in more crowd. And if you look at statistics, Thunderbird already ranks quite high compared to other email clients. So definitely that's I think a good step in the right direction. I'm also very excited about the mobile app that we have just started collaborating, or we are starting to work on. I think that is a fantastic thing. We've been talking about this. Ryan used to be on the council. We would always talk about mobile. Could we even dare a mobile client? Here we are. So I'm super excited with the mobile Thunderbird sync and how that will affect the experience, user experience. Did I miss other questions? I'm not sure. Did you have more questions in there? Yeah, that's it.
It was just like, what's your favorite? And just for the new watchers, the mobile client is called K9. It's not actually called Thunderbird.
Yes.
But it's the same.
Yes, correct. I'm sorry. It is called K9. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. My favorite is definitely this past, just this most recent release, 102, that folks can pull down today. It's our first release out of just a ton of fixes. So this one actually has new features. It has a updated look and feel. We have new icons, which make it easier to digest what's on the screen, which when you're looking at a ton of email, any visual improvements that help you quickly get through that email is helpful. There's an excellent new key manager talking about encryption that's much easier to use, I think. There's a ton of little things just to the experience, where this was very much a polished release, where we went through and we're like, what part of this experience of just with a layout is, or how you find certain tools, and we tried to correct those. And so the one thing that I really appreciate is we have a new customizable message header, which is what, shows you who the message is from, what the subject is, a lot of that information. And we've totally redesigned that. And now if you go and you click the more button, you can customize it however you want. So that it meets your workflow and taste. But also I love all the work we've been putting into K9. And those updates come very quickly already since we adopted K9. We've seen a ton of just polish and bug fixes, as well as some new features. One of my new favorites is if there's an unsubscribe in an email, there's just a quick button up at the top of the email that you can hit that will, take you straight to the unsubscribe page, and you can say, don't send me this. And things like that really save people a lot of time and make email more enjoyable. And that's the whole goal is for us. And that's what Berna was talking about. This is all leading up to our next release where K9, this is probably in June 2023, K9 will become Thunderbird on Android, and Thunderbird will get a facelift. Of course, for folks who want it the way they have it, there is a classic mode where you can have it look the same that it does today, but we're also going to offer a more modern email experience that I think people have grown to expect. And I think it will also make the information even easier to digest than it is today, which, like I said, is, I think, key to a great email client, is enabling people to get through their inbox quickly and efficiently.
Really great to see just the comments from people who've been using Thunderbird for a while. And also, Yannick, it's good to see you. People who are like, well, maybe I got away from it, and maybe I should come back. And the answer to that feeling, Yannick, is yes, you should give it another try.
And K9, I've been using that for the last month since I found out about it. And I have a bunch of bloat emails. I think we all do. And I just, it's ingrained in me to just select them all and just delete them. I didn't realize there was an unsubscribe button at the top. That's going to make it so much easier. I didn't even go and look. I just assumed. But yeah, the K9 app has been great. I don't even use the Gmail app locally anymore.
I think if you see the stuff that we'll share it here soon, but right now we're going through this planning stage with K9 to kind of mock up some improvements to the interface and how information is displayed. And we finished up a session yesterday, and by the end I was just blown away. I was like, this is going to be the best email experience on Android. And, to be honest, going into that planning process, I was skeptical, how much innovation was left in kind of the UX of a mobile email client. But then once we actually started talking about okay, well, when you click on a person's, email or their profile picture, in an email client, what do you want to do? What information do you want displayed? And it's amazing because we had a member of the community also in there, the K9 community, offering up some ideas as well. But just the quality of the ideas that came out of that session, I think people are going to be, especially the type of folks who listen to this and watch this, are going to be really impressed with the experience that we came out with at the end, and I look forward to being able to share that with folks. But it's going to get better, Heather, is what I'm trying to tell you. It's going to get a lot better.
That's awesome. So out of curiosity, are you all doing user testing on, kind of your average mom and pop users?
Yeah.
What does that look like? How do you reach these folks?
With Thunderbird on desktop, we've started doing pretty consistent user testing. And it very much is, we kind of have our personas, and we try to kind of make sure in any user testing we have those fulfilled. So we have the open source enthusiast and technical, person, and then we have, I guess, your mom and pop, which we do have quite a few of both. We're one of those interesting programs where I would say we straddle the entire spectrum of humanity, in that I'll talk to a user one day who's 80 years old and she loves Thunderbird because she's been using it for the last 20 years, and that's just the only way she knows how to access her email. And then I'll talk to the Arch Linux user who's just they have the craziest setup possible and it's super customized. And so there's a challenge there, and it's very hard to make this user happy and this user happy sometimes, because their workflows are very different. But there's also an interesting opportunity there when you find something that works across the whole spectrum, because oh, this is something special. Like, we found a really good solution here. So
And
yeah,
if I may add, sorry, we also have donors who are over 90 years old.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. Oh gosh. So this is a question I just wanted to bring in, since we were talking about testing. And Diogo asked, how do you do accessibility testing?
So fortunately, we have a pretty active community in Bugzilla. So a lot of times when we are working on accessibility solutions, we'll oftentimes ask for someone to test something or for feedback on that solution. And that's great that we have those people in our community who are willing to take the time to provide feedback or test something for us. We continue to make investments in accessibility. In fact, right now we're hiring for a UX and accessibility person. So if you want to check out thunderbird.com and go to the careers page, you can apply for that. It's really important to us. It's also, we've learned these past couple of years that, like, it's a whole skill in and of itself. And so we're currently, like I said, looking out for people who really care about this particular piece of Thunderbird, because it's not trivial. And so we do some accessibility testing, but we're trying to make investments to improve in this area, because we want Thunderbird to be super, super accessible to everyone. And I think open source sometimes fails in accessibility, and we don't want to be among that crowd. We want to differentiate ourselves in that way. So we're doing some. We're going to get a lot better, I think, over the next couple of years.
I think that's really inspiring, because I think you're right. A lot of it's always kind of an afterthought, if it's a thought at all. So the fact that you have it in the front of your mind is really, really wonderful.
Yeah, we have quite a lot of, for instance, we have quite a lot of blind users who use Thunderbird, and it's really useful to get their feedback, because it's sometimes very hard to imagine using Thunderbird that way. I do know sometimes the team will turn on like the features for blind users and just like turn their laptop so they can't see the screen and try to do some testing that way. But it's very helpful to if anybody's out there and they want to help with that process, and they're someone who needs these accessibility settings, it's very useful to have them providing feedback in the community, so that we don't have any areas where we miss. And so if anybody wants to contribute in this crowd, we really appreciate your time.
Yeah, it's something that has been.
I may, sorry, go ahead. I'll chime in after.
You go.
Just to add on to what Ryan is saying, I think Ryan is fantastic in terms of, he says, if you don't mind my sharing this bit of information, he says we shouldn't use open source as a crutch. So he's very, aware of what needs to get done, and we are very fortunate he's leading the product management efforts at Thunderbird. Just wanted to add it.
Yeah, the open source as a crutch thing is something that I feel very strongly about, because I see that sometimes when there are really great open source projects, but they encounter something hard, and then that's the point when they lean back and they say, well, we're open source, and we can't do it because X, Y, and Z. And I think that's sometimes it's valid, but it's also not a good answer for users. They're using whatever tool it is. In this case, it's Thunderbird, and a lot of times they don't care that it's open source. They just want a tool that does the job that they need it to do. And it's not going to prevent us saying like, oh, we can't do this because we're open source and we don't have X, Y, and Z, is not going to prevent them from going to Outlook. And so
Right.
we have to compete on the merits of doing things better instead of just the fact that we're open source. Open source gives us superpowers. So anybody can come in, they can help us make the product better, which is an amazing superpower, but we shouldn't use it as an excuse.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And I think that Diogo here kind of says that this is part of kind of all of our missions too, that we want to bring the best of free and open software to the widest audience possible, and that means making it as accessible as possible. So I know this is something that we have been trying to kind of see where can we improve on this, and we kind of know that it's like, yeah, this is something that deserves attention and money and time, and the thing is, like, people are like, oh, that's such a niche thing, and it's just like, well, it's a humane, ethical thing, but also if you think about, we have a great UX person who starts her lightning talks about accessibility with talking about OXO kitchen tools and how they were designed by how they were designed by someone to help his wife with arthritis. But then it was like, wait a second, this makes it better for everybody. Instead of like those old school can openers that were all metal and awful, like, let's have comfy ones. So
Yeah.
That's a really good point. We found that the accessibility settings for blind users, because they oftentimes need keyboard shortcuts to access all sorts of parts of the application, is also makes for a better experience just with people who want to use their keyboard instead of the mouse to navigate Thunderbird. And so it pays dividends for everybody when you invest time in accessibility. And it's also a spectrum, you know. Some of the things that help blind users help low vision users, and you know, as you get older as a human being, that's often a problem you encounter as you get older. And so it's not just anything we do for one set of users who need accessibility improvements usually helps other people who, you know, it may not be clear immediately that that's going to help another group, but it ends up making a difference for other folks as well.
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of like add to Diogo's question there and say, you know, with you know, running Thunderbird on Ubuntu. So on Ubuntu, we have these accent colors that are kind of fun that we've provided in this new LTS. I really like purple. And I love in Thunderbird how that sidebar on the left, you can change the color, you can change the highlight color of the icons. Like, it's really cool. Is there a way, or I mean, I'm sure there is a way, but how difficult would it be to kind of tie in that color to the accent color? So when you launch Thunderbird, like, it automatically like chooses that accent color. And then like with libadwaita coming, you know, from GNOME, it's kind of the same thing. Like, how difficult would it be to tie into that color scheme?
So we try to use some of the operating system like native, you know, functionality or things. I've seen that also in elementary as well, and I'm glad Ubuntu rolled it out. I think that's such a cool feature. Purple is also mine.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
On that one particularly, I think we can look at it. We do, when Thunderbird is built for, you know, Ubuntu, for instance, or for Linux, it actually does use GTK elements. And so we already do have some things that we ask for from the toolkit. And so I'd have to look at that one specifically, but usually we try to do things like that integrate with the with the OS. And so I don't think that should necessarily be out of scope. Of course, if someone in here is like, I know a lot about that and I'm ready to write a patch, like go for it or hit me up. But yeah, we've done some things like that on each platform. There are some Windowsisms and some Mac OS isms that also grab things you expect in the operating system and incorporate it into Thunderbird. So I think that's very possible, and that's a really great idea. I wrote it down just a second.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, color changing is it's such a small thing that can really brighten your day, make it feel unique.
One of our key values is customizability. I had the entire team write out like what are Thunderbird key values, and one of them that came out of that was customizability and how important it is to be able to customize your experience. And in a time when I think that a ton of folks are moving their software away from, like, they're like, this is the perfect happy path, there is no other path, this is the only way to make things good. I think when we talk to our users, unfortunately, maybe from a product development perspective, but I have yet to find 2 users who use email exactly the same way. And so we have made it a key value to try to enable people to customize their experience as much as possible so that they can do, what they need to do and be happy doing it. So if accent colors are a big part of that, then like I say, yeah, let's do it.
Cool.
Especially for some of our friends in Ubuntu Mate land who are kind of a little bit obsessed with the color green, very particular shade of green. So yes, you give them the option to do that and they will be happy as anything. And I love that Diogo pointed out that we do have a snap of the Thunderbird that adds some safety to it, and that also makes it easier, because then you don't have to do all those back ports, to make it work with 2204, but 2004 and 18, and the people still on 1604. So it's okay to update people on 1604. So, and this does bring me to, we know that, I think last month's Indaba or the one before that, we were talking about the Firefox snap. We know that has been an issue that's gotten just a little bit of attention in our community, just a tiny bit. Yeah. Are there any thoughts to kind of, since Mozilla has moved this to a snap-only delivery, are there any thoughts on doing this for Thunderbird has there been any discussion about it? Is this something that you all would consider, or is it something that also maybe you can't talk about it?
I think a lot about this a lot. I think probably some folks in your audience know that I came from System 76, and before that, Mycroft, and I was very much in kind of the Linux ecosystem. It's probably been what has characterized most of my career. And so I think a lot about snaps and Flatpaks and how to deliver Thunderbird best to the Linux desktop. And I think our goal right now is to adopt Snap and adopt Flatpak in a more meaningful way and spend more time testing those delivery mechanisms and see if we can really make that a first-class experience. The sandboxing and the what the user is talking about there, is really, really an amazing way to deliver software so that the app is only touching the things that it should and not touching the things that it shouldn't. And I believe in that 100%. I think that's long overdue. It does present some challenges for Thunderbird. Thunderbird, you're dealing with a lot of emails have attachments There are things that we try to do, and then sometimes snaps and flat packs kind of fail at. For instance, we have a feature where you can use the system GPG instead of our OpenPGP library, but on snaps and flat packs, it's often been hard to actually gain access to the part of the OS to use the system library. So I say that to say that it's not trivial to provide perfect support for these formats, but it is important because they're a better way of delivering software than the current way, the current most popular way on the Linux desktop.
Okay, so there's still some opportunities to, fix some things there. That's cool.
Yeah, but I mean, I used the snap, what was it, not too terribly long ago. And for, I would say, everything I did in the few months that I used it, I didn't encounter any crazy issues or anything. And so I would encourage folks to use it today and let us know if you encounter anything that doesn't work the way you thought it should.
Yeah, I'll say the beta is available in the Snap channel. I think it's the Edge channel, or maybe it's been upgraded. But yeah, I was using the beta deb for a hot minute, and then I was like, oh, look at that, it's in the Snap store. Let me just switch that over.
Yep.
Okay, so I wanted to switch over and kind of talk some more community-focused questions. And I'd like to throw a question at Berna here. In terms of contributor numbers, how has the Thunderbird community evolved over, say, the last year or 2 years? If you know.
I think Ryan would say more to this, but I think we have a very healthy community that is active in Bugzilla and contributions, and we are always, Wayne has taken the torch from Ryan, and Ryan is actively Wayne is actively in touch with the community to get more community members engaged with the project and contribute more and be more active in terms of code and otherwise, because we also need non-technical support, right, with the console work. So it's not just coding skills that we need, we also need skills on the console side that can help us grow this project even further as we grow. But I don't have the precise numbers. That would be, maybe we have 114 active contributors, but I am not sure if it is the exact number. Ryan, do you know more?
Yeah, so we've measured this as much as we can, and there's a spectrum, of course, of what you consider a contributor. If we count everybody who engages with us on Bugzilla, we probably have thousands of contributors. But folks who actually write a patch or or engage in translations or in like community support, things like that, that number is probably in the 100 and some range of really active people. Now it's even more interesting because we kind of we adopted K9, so we got their community too, and we're going through a process of both sides are figuring out where are the best places where like the skills transfer, and someone can go from helping with K9 to Thunderbird and vice versa. I know right now we had someone do the unsubscribe button. Sylvia is her name, and she did the unsubscribe button in K9, and I said, that's amazing, like maybe you can come over and help us bring it into Thunderbird. And that's the type of thing where at the end of the day, it's those are transferable skills between the communities. The thing is, when it comes to developers, which we would like more developers to engage with the project. I mean, we like the whole gamut. There's lots of points that plug into Thunderbird. Translations, for instance, we need more Japanese translators currently. There's obviously UX design, which is we're going through a UX design overhaul right now. So if you're into that, like this is a great opportunity to kind of bolster your skills and even your resume to say, hey, I helped with, Thunderbird's redesign. But right now, I think developers, we really could use more folks, but I know it's not easy too, because Thunderbird's an enormous code base and it's email, and email is like its own world. And you need expertise in that as well, I think, to contribute. And so, but if anybody wants to come and help contribute, we will teach you what you need to know to contribute, and we could really use the help. The community is pretty healthy, and it's the only reason we're still around. And so we rely very heavily on our community, and that's where Berna and the other folks on the council come in. We have this Thunderbird Council that owns the project. Along with the MZLA board, they are two bodies who control what we do, which gives the council particularly gives the community a really strong voice in what we do. And they have a lot of power, and we want to keep it that way because we think the community should own Thunderbird. And so there you go.
I just wanted to share this quote from Mauro Gaspari, who is one of the newest members of our community team. And he said, someone at Thunderbird had the best idea ever, bring Jason Evangelo on board. So, and it has been wonderful to see all the energy that he's brought to his role too. So yes, very good choice. And we are also happy because I am actually filling in for Philip, my manager, who came from Thunderbird. So he is off camping with his family. So Philip, if you're watching this after you have your wonderful vacation, hi. And we're very happy that, Thunderbird's loss was our gain. So let's see. So I know you actually kind of jumped ahead to one of my questions, which was kind of where do you need people the most? But I think that this is a good kind of follow up here. You mentioned the need for localizations, and how can people get started with that?
Sure. Thunderbird uses the Mozilla Pontoon instance, and I think we have on the website and under Get Involved resources to get started with localization. How that looks is when you go to participate in localization, you sign up on the Pontoon website. I think it's pontoon.mozilla.org, but I encourage folks to go to our website, go to the Get Involved page and look so that you know for certain you're in the right place. But you get presented with the English string, and then you can choose what language you want to offer up a localized version of that string, and those come directly from the application. And once they're done, that essentially gets submitted to the project, and it's very easy. It's very simple. It's almost like a weird Duolingo, like you get the string, and then you're expected to like type in your localized version and then submit it. But you can go through as many strings. It takes like maybe 5 minutes to get set up, and then you're just going through strings and putting in what it should be. That would it means so much. It means so much when that allows us to get releases out faster, because we need to meet a certain threshold, for instance, for localization before we can even put the release out. And community members make that process go so much faster than if we do it ourselves. And so any contribution there is worth its weight in gold. It's amazing.
Speaking of contributions, sorry, go ahead, Berna.
Just one small addition. I think we value diversity a lot on the team and within the overall Thunderbird community. So please, especially if you're willing to contribute, doors are open. Please come and contribute to our efforts. Every background.
Yep. Everyone's welcome.
Yeah, I know you'd mentioned a couple of things like accessibility and localization. What other areas would you say are the most needed for contributions?
Well, we talked about, and I know this is most of the audience is using Ubuntu, so they're using the desktop version. But K9 is also we would love more contributors there, and I feel like the onboarding is easier because it's a little less complex than the desktop version. And so we do have some pretty active developers there, but of course, every person who comes and contributes, and also design help there would also be helpful. But anyone who comes and helps there accelerates the game we're playing of sort of catch up to make sure that K9 is equally as feature rich as Thunderbird. And there's a lot of like little jobs that we need help with. And especially, students or folks who just want to bolster their technical chops or their resume, you can jump right in on either of these projects. But, K9 you're working on an Android, so you can platform, so you can get a lot of mobile development experience there. But there is no barrier to entry. You can participate in our calls about what we're doing and what our plans are and everything, and you can really just improve your skills a lot if you're interested in mobile development there. So I would say that's an easy, or not easy, but a lower barrier of entry point into kind of participating in an area where we'd love to see more contributors engaging.
Yeah, I did just want to say, like, I do really appreciate that you guys have open calls where, any random person like myself can just come and sit in and listen to kind of like this, like an AMA, just asking you guys all the questions. But for those that haven't heard those, they might wonder, why is the app still called K9 and not Thunderbird? Is that ever going to be the same?
Yeah. About this time next year, I expect that K9 will be Thunderbird. I know some members of my team get nervous when I say that, but the point is that we have a list of features that we consider to be the things that we need in order to call K9 Thunderbird. And once we hit those features, we'll be able to feel confident that users will go from desktop Thunderbird to Android Thunderbird, and they'll have a very similar experience, or they'll feel like the tools that they have on desktop are also present on mobile. We don't want an experience where people hop into their mobile Thunderbird and they're like, wait a second, this doesn't have X, Y, and Z, and I rely on those things. We want it to be a positive experience. But if folks want to help us get to that earlier, even using K9 and offering up feedback, pointing out bugs, all of that helps. And we have that K9's issue tracker is on GitHub, so a lot of folks are really familiar with what to do there. So anything helps, even just testing, even just using the app.
Testing is so helpful, and so many people, that's where they get their start. So I'm actually we had some good questions that came up from the audience here, kind of about versions, and also a question about the Snap version. So the first one was from Yannick, and asking, if you're going to download Thunderbird, do you go for the beta or stick to the stable one?
grab the beta. Grab the beta. I'm on beta every day. I'm a Thunderbird Power user. So I have lots and lots of stuff in there, and I think we have a very stable beta, but also we need beta testers right now, especially the types of folks who listen to this. We're going to be making a lot of changes over this next year, and we're going to need as much feedback as possible on those. Thunderbird 102, if folks have been watching, has been slow to roll out because we don't have enough beta users. And so what happens is we roll out the update to like the ESR update, this big yearly stable release, to a small fraction of users, and then we get a ton of feedback. But unfortunately, our current beta population is not enough that we get that feedback before the ESR. We get some, but not as much as we need. And so, because we had 20 million users on stable, but we only have 30 some thousand on beta, and they just can't catch everything. So I especially technical folks, if you use the beta and you see an issue, which I encourage all of you to use the beta, but if you see an issue, tell us, and that helps us move Thunderbird along much, much faster.
I'd like to say, like, if you're using the snap as well, you can install the beta and the stable in parallel, and you can switch back and forth.
Yeah.
But I've been on the beta, and it seems very stable. So, why is it beta not stable? It's stable enough.
It will be. Eventually, our beta is Firefox code base, and so for instance, like we're on 105 on the beta. I think, no, we're on 104 on the beta right now, which is what Firefox is on as well. And eventually, if we are able to grow the team a little bit more, get better at doing releases, we'll be able to actually follow that release cadence, which I think would give users things, obviously every month instead of every year, which I think our users would appreciate.
Nope. You're muted.
Well, there was the excited small child literally running by going, wee.
Yeah, we are.
And I'm like, it is almost 8 o'clock in the morning in California. I wish I didn't have to have coffee to get your energy. So somebody was asking, does the Snap version work with the Open With add-on? And I don't know if this is something that you all can answer, or if we need to talk to, this is when I really wish Ken was on, because Ken knows like all the things about the snaps.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that add-on, but I mean, we could certainly try it out, and then if it doesn't work, I mean, Olivier on our team is the one that kind of manages the Snap, and we can, I mean, I would encourage, if something doesn't work, file a bug.
Yeah. I assume this one may not work because it's going to have an interaction with the browser, whatever your system's browser is, and that's those types of things that I was talking about, that we have issues sometimes with snaps and flatpaks. But I do know that there are ways to allow this in the Snap, but we do need like bug reports against against Thunderbird to let us know like this doesn't work, and then we can coordinate how to fix that. I do know the author though of OpenWidth, and I can also let you know he actually is one of our senior engineers on the project. So.
And it's awesome because Ken is here. Hi, Ken. I would like to say, if there's snap bugs, or like if it seems prevalent in the snap but not the dep, like please file it on Launchpad, and we'll take a look for sure. Monica, you're muted.
I know. I'm sorry. Yeah. So it's almost like this feels like early pandemic with like I can't hear you. So the last question we have is kind of something that ties in a bit to what my job is at Canonical. I work a lot with our community council, which Thunderbird also has a community council, and you also have kind of a devoted team to working with them, just like we do. And how does kind of, what does that look like at Thunderbird?
Okay, I'll take this one. We have already 2 members on the council from the team, but we also do have council sessions where we invite a team member, or let's say product manager, to come and tell us, talk us about product strategy, business strategy. So it's a very collaborative environment, I would say, and we also talk pretty regularly with the team. So it's great. It's been great so far, and we also, as we said earlier on, as we are growing, we are bringing more structure into the team. There's an operations director, whom I speak every week, so that they are all aligned and working towards the same goal, and support each other whenever and wherever needed. Does that help answer the question, or do you?
It does, and that also sounds really familiar too. It's just like, we're here to be the people who can get things done for them, and that's the whole reason why we exist. So yeah, so it's really great to meet someone else who kind of just understands, the uniqueness and just really the helpfulness of those kinds of positions.
And because it's actually in our company's kind of charter, because the council did run the project for quite some time before it became large enough to be a company, the council also has a lot of say over our budget, over the actual company's budget, MZLA, and things like that aren't typical of community councils, but they have a kind of a elevated position because, they were so vital in bringing Thunderbird back from the dead. And so there's a lot of responsibility there, but it also keeps our team honest and working for the interests of the community, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. We oversee this strategy in terms of product and business, plus the stewardship of the funds that we are collecting for Thunderbird. So we have to work together to make this successful.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's how open source is, right? Let's all work together to make this project successful. So we're out of time. I wanted to thank you both. But before we go, I wanted to ask, is there a place where you would like to direct folks to find you? Maybe Twitter or Mattermost or IRC, I don't know. Where would you like folks to find you?
Sure. Well, my Twitter handle's here. The Mozilla's is at Moz Thunderbird, which, as Monica said earlier, Jason and I watch that like hawks. So we'll see if you add us, we'll see it. And of course, go to thunderbird.net. There's a Get Involved page. You can find lots of resources there for how you can actually participate in creating Thunderbird. We've got a super exciting year coming up as far as changes in Thunderbird and lots of ambitious plans. So I encourage folks who want to participate. This year is the year to do it.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Berna, I guess Twitter for you as well?
Yes, that's my Twitter handle. I usually retweet what Jason and Ryan put on Moz Thunderbird. I mean, it's so exciting. I was so excited to see a tweet yesterday about the design, the Thunderbird logo design, I think it was. It's like, really, really nice. Follow Moss Thunderbird for very exciting news and up-to-date news. What's happening in Thunderbird?
Well, this is very exciting. Thank you both for coming to tell us about the plans and the history. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the work that you're doing, because I love Thunderbird and I would cry if it went away. So keep on keeping on. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks Monica for joining me from Scale.
Of course.
And the next Indaba is going to be the August 26th. So that's the last Friday of the month, and we'll post about what that topic's going to be here in a bit. And yeah, see you all next month. Thanks again. Bye.
Thank you.